I'm
I don't
recording
know
it.
if it's okay with you.
That's great. I just clicked record, so I'll
Oh,
record it
okay,
and then
great.
I'll post it and send it to you.
All right, thanks.
Good idea. Good idea. All
Mhm.
right, so we just created two new categories in the gradebook, quizzes and tests. We gave those a weight. Now all the weights add to 100.
Okay.
Okay, then we saved it. And now before we create an online test or quiz, I want to show how to create an offline item. So anything done outside of XYZ, maybe in class, is considered an offline grade. We can have those grades in XYZ so the student always has an accurate score.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to offline grades. I'm going to choose add.
Mm-hmm.
So let's give this item a name. Let's call it quiz 1. Maybe quiz 1 is worth 50 points. The due date here, this is going to default to whatever the current time is. But if you set a course up at the beginning of the semester, you're going to want to have these pretty close to when the actual quiz 1 is given. After this date, scores will turn to 0 in the gradebook if nothing's entered. The next thing is the important part here, gradebook category. Well, here's the categories we just created. So we want to make sure that this item, quiz 1, is calculated under quizzes. And there we go. And that's it. If this was a regular class, you'd see a list of your students' names. You'd be able to enter their grades as well as some feedback. So I'm going to hit submit. And now we can just isolate any category from the category drop-down. So we can just look at the quizzes. And you can see that there's only one item in this category called quiz 1. It's worth 50 points. If we needed to make a change to this item, we just click the settings link here, and it brings us back to this screen. And now we can say, oh, that was supposed to be 35 points, or change the date to whatever we need it to be. So easy to go back and do that. This is, you'd also click on settings to add the grades for the students. So I'll hit submit, and now that change is made.
So this is an offline quiz, which means I give this quiz in class. Is this correct?
That's exactly right.
And then I enter the grades, let's say for each student, let's say one by one,
Yep,
or
yep, yeah, right here,
okay,
if I click here, there's down at the bottom
right,
here, there's no students
right,
here now, but there'd be a list
right,
of them, and there'd be a little
right.
thing. Yep, be able to enter them real quick.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay,
So in XYZ, you can mix online and offline grades within the same category. So if you had some
okay,
offline quizzes and some online quizzes, you can put them both under the 30% if you wanted.
okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's create an online quiz. So this is a little more complicated, so it's probably a good thing we're recording this. So whenever I create a new item, I like to copy a previous item just because it gives us a good starting point. Okay, there's a lot that we've put into these, and the libraries are loaded. We have the settings at a common starting point. So I'm just going to choose an item or one of the current assignments, and I'm just going to click copy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I created a copy of 1.8. Now this isn't going to be 1.8, so let's go into settings and let's name this. So maybe this is a chapter 1 test. So we've named it. So this is what's going to show in the gradebook. Here I can format the text if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
New item. We have the due dates here. So whenever this test is, you're going to want to make sure it doesn't open that early. So maybe this is something you want to have open on March 6th and then close probably just a day or two later if it's
Right.
online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then times as well. Okay, so now maybe this is something where they have to go into a lab, real common for XYZ users. There's somebody at the lab knows the password, so you can set a password here for the test.
Right.
You can set a time limit here,
Mm-hmm.
so you can kick the students out after 45 minutes or whatever you want. Display method, this doesn't matter that much. Just skip around is the most common. It just means they can work the problems in any order. If you want to force the order, you can do a full test, submit one at a time, or one question at a time will force the order as well. But skip around sometimes works well, and it's what the students are used to anyway. I was going to say sometimes the students are confused when the settings for a test are so much different than the settings for their homework. So skip around is familiar. All right, so attempts per problem, let's change that to 1. Maybe the points per problem, let's change that to 5. We're only giving 1 attempt, so we don't need to set a penalty. But it would be common here for instructors to keep 3 attempts and then set a penalty for attempts after that. So that's not a recommendation, but just letting you know that some instructors do that. Now, feedback method, probably just want to show the score on each question at the end of the test here, okay? Or you can show no scores are shown, so they don't know until after the due date.
Right.
Just so final score, but then they can reattempt the entire test. If they reattempt it and they get a lower score, they would then get the lower score. So again, this is a setting that sometimes our users confuse with the MyMathLab setting. This does let them reattempt the test, but it won't default to their higher score. Okay. Do some of these look like what you want?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this, so I know I can pick. All right.
Is giving multiple attempts per test something that you normally do?
Usually the quizzes are, 1 try, and the exams, but I can also choose maybe 2 attempts.
But then they only take the test once?
Yes. And I usually scramble the problem so it's not in the same order for each student.
Oh, good. Yep. Okay, so then the other thing I just did here, show answers. Generally, after the due date in gradebook, that way after the due date, students can go back in and see what they missed, see what they got right if they want.
Right.
Okay. So that's a good setting there. We're probably going to uncheck this box. It says show hints and video lessons. So we don't want them showing the videos for a test. We don't want them asking the instructor. The late pass, maybe you don't want the late pass here if it's a certain time, so you can just check none. Let me talk about late passes after this though too. It's a nice feature. Hard to print, not such a big deal, but for a test you probably do want it hard to print. So students can't go into a lab and print it off and have somebody else work it, so that makes it harder. Here's the item you were just speaking about, the shuffle item order. So this will do just as you asked here.
Excuse me, so make hard to print means they will not be able to print?
Correct.
Okay, I see, because it was no. So when you pick no, then they have an option to print, but if it's yes, they will not be able to print.
Right. We won't make it easy to print. They could still, it's just a website, so they could do a screen capture and print if they wanted to, but they'd have to do it.
I see.
It would be harder to print it, yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, the gradebook category. Well, let's put this in our category that we just created under tests. And then finally, the calendar icon. We just change it so it shows up on the calendar like that. And then some of these other things are conditional items. So if many times if you want them to get a score, you'll take the test until you get at least 60%, or else you get a 0. So that forces them to keep taking the test. This is a conditional assessment, so you can't open this item until after you get a score of 20 on section 1.8 maybe. These aren't used that much, but we do have them for people that are used to using these, the conditional. So I'll change those back to don't use. And then the penalty for a late pass, probably doesn't apply to the tests, but this is where you'd set it for a homework assignment. The same random seed and the same version. Sometimes instructors do like to use this for a test, so they're not having to correct 20 versions of each question. So that will make all the tests similar, which takes some of the advantage of online homework out. But those.
So if it's not checked, then they do have different versions?
Exactly.
Or,
yes.
okay, and if you check, then it will be the same version for all the students?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we're just going to save these changes. And we scroll down and we see here's the Chapter 1 test. We can take this out of the block if you want and just put it, I'll close this block. There's our test. So you're going to put it as the first item. So when students log in after Monday the 6th, this will be the first thing they see.
I see, okay.
Okay. So that is how to make a test. Oh, no. That's how to set the settings. I haven't. We're only halfway done. So now we have to choose the questions. Okay? So I'm going to click on questions. So remember, we copied this from 1.8. So these questions are only the, this is the 1.8 homework assignment still. So the first thing we want to do is just remove all of these. So I'm going to check remove. Yes, I want to remove them. Okay? So now we need to choose questions for this test. And there's two ways to do it. We can select from the libraries, which can be a little more complicated. So what we recommend is select from assessments. And I'll explain the difference as well. So a select from assessments is only going to have the pool of problems be from the assessments that are already in the course. So we're going to want this Chapter 1, so let's check all the Chapter 1 assignments. Say use these. Yes. And now we have all the Chapter 1 assignments, all the Chapter 1 assignment problems, all the Section 1.2 problems from that assignment, all the questions from the 1.3 assignment to choose from. So the advantage of this is students have already gotten a version of this question in their homework. Since it's algorithmic, they're probably going to get a different version, most likely, and they're not going to be surprised by anything on the test. We want to try to avoid surprises in a testing situation just because students are more nervous. So again, there's two ways to choose problems now. The first is just going through, if your book was open, and choosing problems similar to what's in the textbook. But now we have this set up, and we can click this preview button, and this makes it pretty easy to choose. So now you get to view each problem, and maybe you want to use this. So now I check the box, it says mark for use, and then look what happened up here. It says 1 checked, and there's 142 remaining. So as you're checking the next button, and you want to have a test with 20 questions, you know that you have 139 remaining to choose from. So you don't want to choose all the questions right away. And so it keeps track of them for you. The other nice thing, so this is a graphing problem. This submit and regen button down here, I don't know if you can see this, and this is just an instructor screen, so students don't see this obviously. But if you're curious about how many different versions of this type of problem, you can just click submit and regen, and you can kind of see the paren and bracket does trade places from left to right. It mixes, sometimes both the numbers are positive, sometimes they're both negative, and there's a mix. But it looks like there's always a paren and a bracket. So the submit and regen button can be give you a lot of information about how tightly we've coded the questions in XYZ. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
Definitely.
Good. All right, so now it's just a matter of choosing questions that we want or don't want. Going through here. Also gives you an idea of the questions we have available. Okay.
So you can go, for example, if I want to choose maybe 20 questions, I can go one by one. Section 1.1, I pick maybe 2-3 problems.
Yep.
Instead of having all the 130, I can go in each section and add for each section.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep. Yep. So that's what we've done. So now check this one. And as I check them here, they also get checked over here. So I checked 3 and 1.1, and then we were in 1.2. And you can also read the description. So now we see that we're in 1.2, and this is like 53 and 54, which is this problem right here. Yep. Yep.
Do you have in XYZ, let's say when you do preview of the problem, and then it just shows, like, you know, when you read the email and just gives you the first sentence, so you have an idea what is the concept in the problem. Let's say for example, if you use the same concept for the first 5 problems, you don't want to use the same concept. You pick one problem for this concept and another problem for another concept.
I know
the question?
I do. We don't have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, you click the question and then you preview, which means you read.
Yeah.
Like now, we're reading, assume all variables are positive, and then.
Right.
Okay, no problem.
Yep. Yeah, so that what you're describing is in the textbook. So if you had the book open, you'd probably see how the problems are similar in there. But yeah, I understand.
Are these the same problems from the book, or just
They're
these are not the same problems, right?
they're not the exact same, but they're randomly generated. So if the problem in the book gave an answer using a fraction, then we'd want to have a fraction here. So if the answer in the book was integer, we'd probably have an integer here. Yeah. So whenever you do an online homework system, you kind of have to make a decision. Do you want a whole bunch of variation in the question types, or do you want the question types to more closely match the questions in the textbook? And so we've done the latter. Most of these match the textbook problems very closely, which cuts down on the number of randomizations for every problem.
Right.
Yep. Good question. All right, so let's say that we've chosen all the problems. We're just going to come up here. It says add using defaults. So we'll do that. And now we can see we made them all 5 points, so it's going to be 30 points. Now it's done, and there it is. Chapter test. Notice the print version button is not here. They get 1 attempt out of 1. There's no video lesson, but they can still do these in any order they want.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The tip still indicates the type of answer the system's looking for. Either an expression, right? In this case, an expression. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it possible to set quiz for only one section, only one student? Just in case if the student missed the quiz and then I'm setting, let's say, the quiz only for one student. Do we have this option?
Yes. So from the roster, you'll see a list of your students' names. And if somebody missed it, you can do make what's called an exception here with this link. And so you'd have to first check the student's name. The make exception will bring up a list of all the assignments, and then you'd just assign this quiz or test for the student, for that student. Yep, that's called an exception. So as long as we're here, I'll talk about late passes. So late passes are the way we deal with late work in XYZ. Most of our users really like it because it puts the responsibility on the student. So the premise is that all students are going to turn work in late, and you really want to cut down on the number of conversations you have about late work with your students. So that's where the late pass comes in. So a late pass is going to extend the due date of any assignment by a certain number of hours. This is up to the instructor. So maybe 72 hours for 3 days. And then a certain number of late passes are just given to every student at the start of a semester. So maybe 10. So now students know that there's 10 times during the semester where they can do their work late by using a late pass.
Okay.
So they don't have to contact you. You set this once at the start of a semester, and then that's how it works. Late passes, I think I showed you in the test we were looking at, but there's also a setting in the assignments to give a penalty for any work done during a late pass or an exception. So generally, instructors that give a lot of late passes will also give a penalty. So you can do your work during a late pass, but it's going to deduct 30% from your score
Mm-hmm.
for those problems done during the late pass.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So late passes, a lot of fun. Students really like them.
Mm-hmm.
Instructors like them because they cut down on those conversations.
Okay.
Great. So let's see. So did I go over just setting up a course?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So basically, I mean, let's see what else we.
Yeah, you have
I
the
think we did cover
course.
most of this. Yeah.
Yep, you have the course ID. You'll just send your students to XYZ homework. They'll create an account, and then they'll add a new course. There's a button that reads add a new course or add a new class. They click that button and they just enter the course ID that you give them. And
Mm-hmm.
so once they create the account, they start their 15-day free trial period. And so they can activate their account anytime during that 15 days by either entering the access code that's included with any new textbook,
Mm-hmm.
or they can activate their account directly from XYZ homework. There's a link, and they just enter their payment information right there.
Mm-hmm.
The roster, I don't know if you saw this, back to where we showed the exception and late pass. The second column here, account status, shows the instructor if their students are still in their trial period or if their accounts have expired or if they're active. So we certainly don't want anybody's accounts to expire, so we encourage instructors to let us know if somebody needs a little extra time for their financial aid or whatever reason, and then we'll extend those due dates or
Mm-hmm.
trial periods for those students, and they won't fall behind that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So
Okay.
any questions on the late pass, exceptions, registration?
Not for late pass and the quizzes. Now, if you can remind me again for the dates through mass change,
Yep.
how do we set? I
Yep.
think I went through this before, but
Okay, great. Yeah, so we really like the date feature on XYZ. To set dates, first we're going to add the calendar. Just do this from the add here bar. And so we have a calendar. We don't see anything on it.
right.
As you remember, when we created the test, we did set the date for this. So it was due on the 8th, but it was available on the 6th, I believe. It's grayed out now because today's not the 6th, today's only the 1st. So it's grayed out, meaning it's not available to students. If you're ever curious, you can just click on the student view.
Student view.
Yep.
Right.
And the test is going to disappear because, again, we didn't make it available until the 6th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for any assignment, we can just click on settings and set the dates for any one assignment. But at the beginning of the semester, it's going to be much more efficient to come over to mass change and choose dates. So this is where we bring up the entire list of assignments in this course.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we have dates set of the 14th.
Yeah, I did set this because I believe someone was explaining to me how to do the mass change.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so go ahead.
Yep. So we have to check the box of whatever assignment we want to change, and then we make this available. Again, this is when it becomes available to students. So maybe on the Monday at 3 a.m. and then the due date, just choose the due date. And that's
Right.
however you want these set up. Are these, do you like these due here? Do you want to move these up? Is this for a regular class?
Yeah, I would like to move this up. I mean, I was just playing and I just put a date, random date.
Okay.
So you can see, I mean, I put all due May 14th. But each section, let's say, starts and then is due maybe 1 week after it starts.
Yeah. So when's the class going to start?
For this class, I'm planning to probably offer this in the fall,
Okay.
and we start in August. I have to check. Maybe August 20. Let me see. Wednesday, 23rd.
Okay.
Maybe August 23rd,
Okay.
and then it's due December probably the 15th. I would probably say, or the 20th. Let's see, December. Let's make it December 20th.
Okay.
Because by then I think we'll be done.
Okay. So we can set everything for this date now by doing an action and then copy down dates and times. Would you like to do
Okay.
that? So this will
Right.
make every assignment available on August 23rd and every assignment due on December 20th.
Now, what if I want the assignment to start on August 23rd and then due 1 week after?
Yep.
I think this was...
Yep. So that's more common. So now we'll make that for Wednesday the 8th. So that would be set like that. So to set the other ones, we just go through and choose August. Do you want them is it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Monday through Thursday?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
Right. But I believe there was an option to do this like all at once, which means you push 1 week, right?
Yes, but it's based on how the settings were set previously.
I don't know if I'm clear. So let's say the first section 1.1 starts on August 23rd.
Yep.
And let's say it's due.
Yeah. So the action drop down.
Yep.
Yeah, the send down. So we can try that. Right. So what this is going to do is going to change everything in Chapter 1 so it's available on the 23rd and due on the 30th. Then everything in Chapter 2 is going to be
1 week after.
Yep, 1 week after, and so on and so forth.
It will show 1 week after.
Yep. So if we're to expand the calendar, let's see how big we can go. Yeah, it didn't get there.
Oh, because it's August. I think that's why.
Yep, so August. So this is what it would look like. Yep.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the automated way, but that works best after you've gone through the first time and set up the dates just like you want them. So then moving from the fall class to the spring class, we just would have to do that send down after changing one date. So it would be very effective if we've done this after you've actually gone in and maybe change this to the Fridays, then change this to the Mondays, change this to the Wednesdays. So we have to have them set manually the first time, and then the send down date and time is going to work very well.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense for the settings for the date? Good. Good.
I will definitely practice over this because I spent a little bit of time, as you can see. I did copy this course because you only had one pre-calculus textbook. I only had one option, so I did copy this. And so I will probably look at this again, and if I have any questions again, I can either send an email or contact you.
Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, the support at XYZ homework email is great for contacting us. I think that's where we sent the invite to this webinar.
Is this for the instructor or for
both.
The instructor and
yep,
for both?
Yep, we have students and instructors contact us here. Very good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Patrick.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. So just send me this. Send me the recording.
I will.
Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.